what do we want the police to be focusing on, and to have them focus on that, and to have other departments. So, like, for example, I have had several friends who have had, and I've had to call the police on people who have had health crises, you know,
Yeah.
and there are no other better options. And I wish there were, because the police are not adept at handling that.
Well, can't you call like or take them into an emergency room or something and then get them committed, I guess?
Like, there's just not a lot of great options, honestly. Like,
Well,
the,
I feel like
you know what?
mental health is really an issue on itself, and I don't think we've really been focusing on that. It's only been kind of in the 20th century that we've really started kind of digging into it. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, back in the
Well,
day. Oh, go on.
like, I personally do what I can to do to help my community, right? Like, that's like, when we talk about community involvement, what do we do? So, like, I try to be there for my friends who have mental health crises. When my friend had like a manic episode and like had his neighbors call the police on himself and wasn't like allowed at home, I like let him chill at my place for a bit, and like a lot of other stuff like that. I didn't even know this guy that well. So like, but like, I just, like, I do my best to try to help out my community. I try to help people where I can.
Yeah,
I
but
try to
you're
advocate for people, but like,
as
there's only so much you can individually do
well.
within a system.
I hate to tell you, but you're an outlier too. Not not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody's going to participate, and
Right,
that's where
exactly.
it
But
falls
that's,
short.
I mean,
I brought it on myself because it was like both times, both instances that we were talking about. I brought it up on myself because I knew I could do something, or I wasn't afraid. If I got punched in the face, whatever. I I don't really. Yeah,
I
sure, it
personally,
hurt, but
I personally am not like, don't. My
so
dad would threaten to commit suicide, and mom had me call the police on him. And so, like, I personally am not like fond of calling the police or interacting with the police. So, like, I do everything I can to avoid them as much as possible. So, like,
I I
I
I get the resistance. I really do. Trust me.
I
I
understand that they are useful for some things, but I just think that like an over reliance on them, and like when Max like just didn't want to be at our parents' place, Max like came and stayed with me for a little bit, and mom like threatened to call the police on me
okay.
for letting Max stay
Okay.
with me.
That
So
kind of
like,
stuff I think is okay. See, here's another problem, I think. Because all right. So,
because people do shit like that, that's part of why the
police
police are overburdened.
well, yes. So police are don't have a lot of people, right? Whether it's funding or whatever you want to call it. We'll just whatever, right? If they get called out to these bullshit non-issues, we'll be real. And then they have to make a police report because they have to police make a file everything and anything because that's just how it works. You need files on everything to pull up, right? So then
Mhm.
my case, which is obviously a very expensive thing got stolen, you
I feel
know.
like your case is like one of the few cases that the police are actually useful for. And if we limited the scope of what the police did to just those kinds of things, it would be like much more useful.
So,
But like, we don't. We have the police doing all kinds of random shit that they're not equipped to handle.
but
And they're
here's
not even
okay.
equipped, you know.
Here's something interesting for you too, and I want you to look it up too. They've noticed that with increase of police presence in community, getting to know that community, that I kind of told you that earlier, it actually decreases the amount of crime in the area because they did that in a lot of times
Well, it's actually it's
low
like
income.
it's actually better to like hire from or within the community. Like, it's not just like the police presence, it's like community involvement. And that's
Yeah,
like
but
the
they're
thing
still
is
working for
like,
the police and they know the area, they know the people. That ties into that. And
well, but
that's
here's the
why I
problem
think
is
it's
that a lot of
so
the police
important.
are people coming from somewhere outside policing a different community, when what you really need is somebody who lives in the community to be a police member. And those are different things.
but you still need enough budget, we'll say, to bring those people in and have them commit to an area for a while because they're on the clock, right? And instead of you know building that rapport with the area, they're called out to bullshit other things because there's not enough people. See how it all kind of feeds into each other?
I mean, I think there's like, it's a very complicated issue and there are multiple different sections of it. Um, I mean, but I don't think that anything that I say, I think like personally, I have the opinion that anything I say, you're gonna have like the opposite opinion of.
No, not necessarily.
Like,
We can agree
because
on one thing though. FBI is useless.
I just think that like, I think that like the police, they're like not really legally obligated to do anything, and that like even if they did have the funding, they're like largely like a bureaucracy, you know?
What?
Like,
Okay, wait a minute. What do you mean they're not legally obligated to do anything? So if I call out, hey, stop scratching the floor.
you know, the court has ruled that the police don't have to put their lives in danger to help you.
Well, yeah, I mean, they also have to look out for themselves. That doesn't mean they don't, though. I guarantee you, you know, most police officers will do their job. Look at shit. Which one was it? All right, talk about mass shooters for a second. And you're right. They aren't legally obligated to risk their lives. I think the only people that really are the military. Um, but
I just think that like there's like philosophically the idea of policing in general, there's something to be said about like societal expectations in policing, but I think that like you personally believe like the question is like why are people carjacking these things, right? Like why, and you think it's just like shitty people doing shitty things, and like you know
well,
what, some
and
people
they're
are,
highly targeted too. They're expensive cars and they're easy to steal right now, so they
some
can
people
just
are
make a
just
quick
shitty,
buck.
right?
Yeah.
Some people are just shitty, but some people, how do you differentiate between people who are just shitty and people who have bad options? And like there's so many shitty people not committing crimes, right? So like why commit crimes? You know what I mean? Like it's just like there's so much more that goes into it, you know?
Look, I think that you know if we ever catch these people, like maybe no jail time, but chop off their hands, make them have to relearn how to live. I think is better than putting them in jail
Why do you have that opinion?
because that's what they used to do in the olden times, right?
Did that work?
Well, you can't steal if you have no hands.
Did that work?
Uh, I don't know. I wasn't around 100 something, 3,000 years ago.
Did it make us have a better society then?
I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't around at the time, but
Well, what do you
uh,
think? Do you think it worked for them? Did it
yeah,
make
you know
them have a
what?
better society?
It probably did because then you could identify a thief. You knew to be watch out, and it would utterly suck for them because well, I mean, back in the day, they'd probably die from dysentery because it got infected or some shit like that. But just I, they also used to hang. They used to be pretty harsh on horse thieves, right?
What
They could.
kind of life situation do you think you'd have to be in to make you steal something?
I wouldn't. I
No matter what?
Yeah, not like a car or anything. Look, whatever your quote unquote shitty situation is, there's always other options. There's always ways to get out of it. There's always things you can do. You chose to live that life. You may not agree with me on that, but
How much do you owe in child support that you couldn't pay?
Nothing now.
But how much did you owe?
$30,000.
And if you couldn't pay that and you had to, what would you do?
Go to the back to the court and come up with arrangement. Talk to my ex and work it out how we did.
If your ex is not reasonable, if it wasn't your ex, if it was somebody else you owed money to,
Again,
maybe like somebody less accommodating, maybe somebody who had more power over you in a different way,
well, I would either
maybe somebody who had something else over you.
well, first and foremost, try and talk it out. I feel like diplomacy is a good way of doing that. First and foremost, if that doesn't work, uh, well, okay, like what kind of money are we talking about here? Like, there's different forms. Like, I owe a buddy a few $100, or like I owe, XYZ $20,000 and I can never pay it back, kind of thing.
I don't know.
Because there's avenues you can take. There's always avenues you can take. You could go to the court. You could file for bankruptcy. There's plenty of options.
Okay.
Because that's what I would have done if we didn't. So okay, since whatever, we're not on podcast or anything. If Elena and I didn't come to an agreement, I would have had to go back to court, right?
Right.
I would have said this is unreasonable. I can't pay this. And granted, there would have been ways of doing that. If I still couldn't have paid that and we couldn't come to an agreement, there's other avenues I could have taken. Just in general. Yes, they were hard and difficult, and we came up with the best solution for both of us. But, it would have been a pain in the ass, but I could have done it, right? So
Well,
there's
but like
always
that
avenues.
we
There's
talked about
always
how like the
ways.
court was like extremely difficult.
Yeah.
It was
Oh
gonna take
God.
ages, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like
It would have been
Elena was willing
shit.
to work with you, you know what I mean?
Trust me, it would have been garbage. I would have fucking hated it. I would have been pissed. But it's an option. It's
What
a
if you
way
didn't
of
know how to
so.
navigate the court system?
I
Like
don't
what
know
if
how
you
to
just didn't
navigate the court system. You know what's great about the 21st century? There's a little thing called Google. And anything you need to know is now online. How to navigate the court system is right
what
there at
if
your
you got
fingertips.
what if you got screwed over by somebody and you like didn't even know to like how to get through that? Somebody just said, you owe me XYZ and you have to get me this money.
Okay. Uh that's what a lawyer is for. There are pro bono lawyer groups too. So
What if
somebody
you
could
were someone who didn't think a lawyer would help you?
well, that's what they're there for. That's your fault then for not thinking a lawyer is going to help you. You can represent yourself too. And again, if you want to represent yourself, there are plenty of resources online. That doesn't mean you're going to do a very good job, but there's resources online.
Interesting.
There is always another option. There is always another way out. You are never a rat caught in a corner unless you're actually physically caught in a corner.
Well, because like I have my friend. She had her mental health crisis, and they don't know how to navigate the healthcare system at all, right? And she doesn't have any insurance at all, so they're screwed for like $15,000 of medical debt, and they're just on the hook for it. Now, you know, they just trying to make things work for them, but it's not great, you know. Like
Yeah.
there's like this is not just like about the police, but it's just like a lot of people don't have good options. And sometimes people choose bad options
They
outside of
choose.
those, inside those.
So I'm saying if you go and decide that you're going to choose those bad options, I should be able to choose alternate options of shooting you if I catch you, if that makes sense.
Well, you're insured. Your insurance covers it.
It's not about the insurance.
Why? Like you're not like this is definitely like a violation and it's
Yeah.
unsafe and you did lose money and it's not great, but you're not like homeless.
So they decided to look. I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm taking it fairly well. Kim is not. Kim has been destroyed by this whole thing. She is mentally
Is it about the safety or is it about the money?
neither. It's a sentimental thing, and she's upset. She feels violated. Um, just tons of stuff. She's angry. Like it's like a personal attack. I can't even describe the range of emotions.
I mean, like, I definitely
It's
understand to some degree, but
it's I've customized this car. I've driven it around. We've driven with Orion in it. We brought Orion home from the hospital in this car. We
mm,
were planning on giving it to Orion when he gets old enough. This
oh, that's
wasn't.
hard.
This isn't I know. I know
There's
not
a lot of
being.
emotional
I,
attachment to this car.
I understand where you're coming from though. Most people are like, oh, whatever, a car is a car, but they also drive like it, the point of me driving is not to get to point A to point B, right? That's what most people drive cars for, to get to point A to point B, right? That's your everyday commuter. That's 90% of people on the road. For me, it's about the drive, the experience, having fun on the road with your vehicle, right?
Mm.
And to have somebody take that away, it's I can't describe it.
I didn't realize you guys drove home to Ryan in it. That must have been really hard for her.
Yes. And, I took him on drives on occasion. Not crazy things, but we would go on drives every now and again. He enjoys cars right now, and Thomas the Tank Engine and some other stuff. But like it's not just it's like how should I explain this? A family member got stolen. You
I
know,
I understand where you're coming from, but I also like here's the thing is that like I am overtly attached to stuff. Like I have a hard time throwing things away in general because I have an over attachment to things. Um
so you can kind of get what I'm saying, right?
right. So like I want you to understand like how much I empathize. Like I do
Yeah,
understand this like tragedy, right?
yeah.
But like
And I worked
is
so hard to get like put a
the
payment
money for
on it.
this, right?
Put
That was like it's
I
almost it's as much as a
budgeted it
house.
out. Yeah, and I it was I mean out of $80,000 because that's what I paid with taxes and all kinds of other bullshit fees. I overpaid for it, but that's okay, right? I knew that was
Well,
gonna
it was like
happen.
custom. It's okay. I'm imagining it's like fashion. I recently bought um a shirt that was like $50. It's like custom made. It's like a heavyweight shirt. It's like
Yeah,
ethical and all kinds of stuff, you know, like it's
think
but like it's a good quality thing and
yes.
like
Oh yeah,
technically, you know,
doing the maintenance myself on it. It's
I get it.
yeah. So
But
hey, what
is
do you
our attachment to stuff over human life ethical and good?
okay, so again, I'm gonna refer to what I said earlier. So I don't value my stuff over human life. Now, the criminal obviously values his life over my stuff. he doesn't value his life enough to go, maybe that guy is armed. Maybe I shouldn't be in here doing this.
Well, they
And
clearly did it at 4:20 in the morning so that it would be in and out. They clearly have a thing. This Here's the thing: is like I'm not saying I disagree with your feelings, right? Like I get it, and
no, yeah,
I'm like
that's fine.
I am so hard on the revenge fantasy, right? Like I am like I am very like with you on the revenge fantasy, but the question is, are those good and right things to feel and think? Like, are those
I think they are because I think, okay, I have a very, we'll put it this way, old west sense of, I kind of wish we could do things like the old west, right? I wish I could find my car. Well, we kind of know where it is, but I wish I could go up and say, you have my car, either prove to me or you don't, or I challenge you to a duel.
can we record this for a second? I feel like we should record this.
It's recording.
Okay. My sense of justice is different. Just because I think that it would feel good, right? Doesn't mean that it would make the world a better place, right? Like,
Well, okay, so here we go. Let's put it this way. So I find out who does it. Let's say, okay, let's say this is our own little fantasy world, right? No, no, whatever, we do whatever we want, right? I find out who does it. What? We put them in jail for 6 months. They're out and labeled a felon. Okay, cool. That doesn't mean they're gonna go right back to stealing cars. 6 months is nothing.
what would actual restorative justice be, do you think?
I think chopping off their dominant hand so they have to relearn how to do everything
So that
from.
it's punishment based. They don't have to actually give you anything back.
No, I would be happy with them chopping off their arm and labeled a fucking thief for the rest of their life. And you know, can you imagine how hard it would be to relearn how to do everything with just one hand if you've known that your whole life using two
Eric,
hands?
I've had to relearn how to walk properly. I've had to relearn everything. I do know how hard it is.
Exactly. So
I
I
don't
think
think it should be a punishment.
I think it should. I think both hands.
There are a lot of times I imagine that people who are unsympathetic to me, I wish that they could experience what I experienced so that they could understand it. I wish it on them as a punishment, but it wouldn't change things for them and it wouldn't change things for me, right?
How? Why do you think it wouldn't change things for them? That's my question. Why do you think it
Because
wouldn't be effective?
because they don't have any empathy for me regardless. They don't care about me, period.
So then
They're
why should
not
we care about them?
because it's not about that. It The point isn't about an individual person. So okay, so here's a story about a man in a war. He kills a woman's son, and there's a trial. And originally they're going to put him in jail or take his life, and then they ask the woman, "What do you wish?" And she says, "I want him to come and talk to me for 30 minutes every day and help me do these things." And you guys says, "I want you to take the place of my son or my husband." I don't remember which one. And because what I'm lost is I've lost a person to talk to, I lost a person to do these things with. And now you have to fulfill this role. You have to do these things that I have lost. You have to restore what you have stolen from me. And the man would have rather faced punishment than do that. To face every day for the next 20 years the pain that he caused this woman and do the work of what he took from her. And I think to me, that's a story of like restorative justice of what we actually need to do is what does it take to make the world a better place. So to me, It means being there for friends who are having a mental health crisis. It
Oh
means
yeah,
showing up for
I
friends in the hospital. It
yeah, I
means
agree. I
not
agree 100% with that
it means
sentiment.
not automatically calling the police. It means rethinking punishment. Just because something feels good for me doesn't mean it has any consequential outcomes. Because it's like, to me, just because I consider, like, I consider it a temporary pleasure, right?
Okay,
Just
well,
like eating candy.
what about
Vengeance is candy, right? Like, it
how
feels
about this?
good.
I got I got a I got a scenario for you. Think about this. Okay, and I'm not saying it's equivalent. Before I get started with this, it's just a scenario.
Okay.
You have a murderer, right? We're talking axe murderer, multiple people, serial killer. Our system, okay, he kills the first person, goes into jail, gets out. Maybe 12 years, maybe the trial didn't go the way of the plaintiff, whatever. Goes out, kills another person, kills two people now. Well, we didn't have enough evidence. He gets out, right? Or whatever you want to say. At what point do you say this person will not be rehabilitated? This
Why was he a
person,
serial killer? What made him a serial killer in the first place?
who knows? It's just an example. But this
Well,
person
because
obviously
here's the
won't
thing is,
change. I'm not saying there's not people in this the system
look,
who won't,
there
but there's
are some people who are like this, but we have had like a decrease in serial killers, and a lot of it, for example, like lead poisoning causes like violent behavior and these kinds of things. So like some of this is like from the macro a public health issue. So things
I
like lead poisoning, things like a lot of people who have gotten COVID have severe brain fog. There's going to be detrimental effects to this.
see.
So
I
to
don't.
me, I think of this. You think of this
Uh,
as like an individual moral problem, and
yes,
like
I
sure,
do. I
you
do.
can think of
I
this
think
as
it's
like,
definitely 100% the individual. No,
but I think of it as like an animal with rabies, right? An animal with rabies,
you
sure,
got to put down.
right. But like, why not just make sure that every animal has a rabies vaccine and we eradicated rabies in America
Because that's not
by having
practical.
everything vaccinated? We have done that. We have vaccinated almost all the animals of rabies. It's extremely rare now.
Oh,
Here in
okay,
America,
okay, we've
rabies is a problem in India because we don't have a public health campaign there.
domestic. Okay, you need to say domestic animals. Yes, because every pet needs to have a rabies vaccine. There's plenty of raccoons, bats. You can't vaccinate all the bats.
But we have a public health campaign about why you shouldn't interact with wild animals and this and that and
See,
that and that.
yes, and I think I get where you're coming from, and I think like fundamentally you think it's because of a flawed system that churns out these people.
Look, some people, there definitely is something wrong with them, but the question is like, what
J-
is the cause of that? And have we done all we can to prevent that?
yeah,
Because here's the thing is, I was sick and I was locked up, right? I was in an therapeutic boarding school with beepers on the doors with a lot of incredibly sick people. Did it make me better?
I think you're all right. I think you're a good person. It's
Sure. But
pro-
did boarding school make me better? No. Like, it took me so many years to heal from the trauma of 2 years of boarding school. Like, I couldn't even eat properly for several years after that. Like, I like some, and that was like therapy. That was just therapy. That was just therapy locked up in a house with 30 other crazy girls. And that was so traumatic for me. Imagine how bad prison is for just normal people. Like,
okay.
and
If you're
and
in
I was
prison, generally you're not a normal person. You No
Eric, I
normal
wasn't
person
normal
went into
either.
prison.
I wasn't normal either. I was not right. There was something very wrong with me.
If you're in prison, you've committed a crime. That's what
Yeah.
I'm getting at.
What kind of crime?
Anywhere, anything. If you're in prison, you've basically went through a trial, and or you've accepted a plea deal or something. But
I've
generally,
never
there's not
watched
a
Netflix's like
the what?
13th about the 13th Amendment.
No.
I think that you should.
What is it called?
Netflix's like 13th Amendment. Let me look it up. We watched it. Um, it's kind of about like the prison system and the 13th Amendment. Um, and I think like that is an important context of like who's in prison and how prison works and how the trial system works.
I'm not saying it's not broken, but if you're in prison, you've committed a crime. Not, yeah, sure. There's a few that fall through the cracks, but whatever.
What rate do they fall through the cracks?
I, how many?
Because you said how overworked everybody is, right? Like it's rare to actually get sent to trial. They like tell everybody to take a plea deal even if they're innocent. You know, like it's not really like a great system we have in general. So it's just like what?
Huh. Okay. Wow. President Biden, you're a piece of shit. SCOTUS rules the innocent must stay in prison.
Oh,
Anyway, um, so okay, yeah, I think our ideologies are very very different on this because I believe it's on the individual, whether it be the circumstances or not. You still have a choice. You always have a choice. I'm not talking about stealing to provide for your family, like food or whatever. I'm saying like
I think we heavily
maliciously.
politicize certain specific things, like somebody stealing $100 versus somebody embezzling $100,000. Those get very disproportionate
Yeah, I
punishments.
still think embezzling is a horrible crime and they should pay with their hands.
And you know who, like, you know what? I'm with you on that one, honestly.
You're like, yeah, fuck them. We could take their hands. I'm
But
glad we
like,
agree on something here.
look, I'm not ideologically pure, okay? Like, I am a very vindictive person. I
Yeah,
am not. Look, in on the inside, I would like bad people to be in pain. I just personally don't think that that's like actually going to make things better. I just know
I
that that would bring me personal pleasure. Okay, those are different things, right?
I think
So
I think
what?
it depends. I think it depends on the crime. And like I said, it okay, like embezzling, same thing. I don't think you should go have a slap on the wrist and then get out because you're rich, right? I think you should have the same kind of or like life in prison. You just stole from everybody's pensions or whatever it is. You ruined people's lives. You should have your life ruined. You killed somebody
Right.
um maliciously. Like let's say you kill somebody maliciously or premeditated, you should get killed too. Not necessarily all the time,
I
but
don't personally think that I'm not personally for murder. I don't think should be killed. I think that they should be life imprisonment if somebody killed somebody. Partially because it's very hard to prove, and also partially because I
okay.
think if somebody did something, they should be miserable for the rest of their life. I think dying is the easy way out. And
Yeah, but then they went okay. I'll
but that's
caveat
just
that with like an asterisk. All right, like
but you know what? You can have your view.
maliciously kill somebody. and unremorseful, without a doubt proven. How about that?
But I
I
don't know. Here's the thing is like I would be unremorseful about killing my abuser. So I would go
but
to jail for that and I would get a
that's
disproportionately higher sentence than if my abuser killed me.
but that's
Disproportionately, statistically, I would get a higher sentence killing somebody who raped me than anybody who raped me.
um
Like
I wouldn't
so
necessarily. Well, okay, yeah.
statistically,
Okay.
statistically.
What about the are you familiar with this happened in the 80s, right? So a this guy's son got kidnapped, right? By this kidnapper, and he took him to Disney and basically raped this kid. This dude was on live air, like on Channel 5 News, was waiting for him. The dude pulled a gun out, fucking shot the guy in the head. He basically got a slap on the wrist, a few years of jail time, and walked out.
Yeah, so we're okay with men murdering people for somebody else, but we're like not okay with victims like getting their own revenge.
I'm okay with it. Again.
I'm okay with it too, but like I'm just saying like statistically in trials and stuff like
Oh,
that are like
yeah,
what
I get what you're
people think is
saying.
okay is different. Like a man who like takes revenge for his child or his wife or whatever, like we're totally happy for them, but if the woman fights back ever, we're like so pissed at her. Or even if the child abuse victim fights back, we're like very skeptical and then no longer believe them. Like it's not even it goes beyond just like our punishment system but like our belief of society and victimhood. It's really a weird and strange topic. Like we don't even like victims that grow up and talk about being victims. We consider them tainted. We have like a very
I,
very
from
strange view of victims.
my point of view, I think they should be able to retaliate and, again, maybe take off a hand. I think that's a pretty good punishment.
I agree. It depends like how we should have like levels, right? Like
Yeah,
how strong
obviously there would be a level. Like,
right, like so if somebody, like grabs you in like a no-no zone that you don't like, you can take off a finger. If they violate you in this way, you can cut off a hand. If they do it more than once, you can cut off an arm, right? Just any amount of appendages.
yep,
I
I
feel like if
I
we had
agree.
it laid out very clearly, right?
Level.
And
So my friend was. We were actually talking about this. It was kind of funny.
because we have like no real, I feel like we don't punish rapists very much. So like if we had like a
No,
great clear system, I would support it.
cut their dick off. If it's a high enough level, don't chemically castrate them because they can still violate people. Just take it off. The whole thing.
Turn them into a eunuch, maybe.
It's exactly right. Into a eunuch. You're now a eunuch.
uh, okay, so the thing is like I the part of me that feels good who likes revenge agrees with that, but like how do we prevent people from becoming rapists, right? What stops
Get
what
your
kind of
dick cut
things.
off if you're a rapist. That's a pretty good incentive.
Hey, I agree. But like how do we stop people from becoming rapists? Like what prevention can we do? What societal impacts can we do to like change that? What do we like
President Biden comes out on stage. I've enacted a new rule. Of course, he'll probably mumble a little bit. Um, and then he'll be like, any rapists that have been convicted and proven. I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm 17 and I had sex with my 16-year-old. Proven repeat offenders, dick chopped off. And,
well,
and
we have to get the police to actually, do all
we'll
those rape
we'll
kits.
issue little guillotines to every single police force. Slice. It only happened once, I swear. Um, all right.
But
Anyway,
like okay, but like how do you prevent things like sexual assault and rape and all that stuff, like what are actual like prevention things that work? Do you know?
Uh, Teaching your kids and bringing them up right. Really, that's step one, and that falls on the family.
Well,
I'm
what
not
do you have
saying
to teach them? What do
what.
you have to teach them? What do you have to teach those kids?
Treat people with respect. First and
You have to
foremost,
teach them basic
no means
consent,
no means no. Yeah, basic consent.
and you have to teach kids the names of real body parts, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, all
And
right.
you know how they have to be taught? It has to be like, I know this is something that should be taught by families, but the best way to, especially if the child is being molested by, let's say, like a father or a grandparent, the best way to make sure that they get discovered and whatever
No, I don't.
is by teaching those things at school so that they have an adult to report to.
Yeah, but I don't want creepy, weird. No.
Look, I get
Uh,
it,
I think it
but
falls on the parents first and foremost. Even though it's an awkward conversation to have with your kids, it doesn't fucking matter. You need to have it. I've literally had conversations with Cyrus going, "Hey, um, don't pull your pants down all the way in the bathroom because there's
oh,
weird
my
and
dad
creepy
was
people."
my dad was so protective of us, so protective of us.
Yeah, it's like there's weird and creepy people that enjoy looking at that. Like, we're not going to get into the details now, but just know that there is bad people who enjoy looking at like you when you're naked, and pulling down your pants gives them incentive to be creepy. Anyway, like, I've had to have that conversation with Cyrus because he kept
Okay, but
pulling
like
his
if
pants
a
down.
child is being molested by their parent, who teaches them the proper names for
Both,
things and about things
both,
like consent?
both parents should. Period. And they should tell them if anybody touches you, regardless of who, you should let your guardian, both parents know. You should tell both of us,
You okay?
or another adult,
See,
or a school member. And this isn't like a joking matter. You need to stress the important. Like now we're getting into like parenting stuff, but you get what I'm saying.
well, but here's the principle of it is this is like the principle of it is like things like lead poisoning increases violent crime, right? So
Well,
what that
okay.
is
I
how
mean,
like okay, here's the thing.
not.
Here's the thing. Like this is so when we had lead gasoline, everybody had a level of lead poisoning that it increases people's violent antisocial tendencies, and some people are much worse than others. Some people were naturally more violent than others, whatever, right? That is like a public health thing in general. When you're talking about private protection, some of that is individual people get told certain things, but some people don't get taught that at all. How do you ensure that everybody gets taught things like consent?
So
How do you ensure everybody gets taught the correct same words for private parts? How do you ensure that? And I know that this, you're going to have a different opinion than me, but if you want to reduce crime in general, you need to have these bigger changes and not just like an individual small police force can do some things, but you need to have bigger things like public health, education, actual career advancement options that aren't crime. Like those are like those reduce crime. There are still going to be people who commit crimes. There are just some bad people in the world, but
yeah, there always
crime
is going to be, and I think they should be punished to the full extent of the law and then some. Like, I don't think we
but
should go easy on criminals.
you must ensure that in order to only get bad people and not people who are forced to
Okay,
make bad choices, you
here.
must ensure you
All
checked
right, all right.
everything, right?
Let me.
Like, in order to ensure people aren't stealing food for their family, that you give people food stamps, right? If
Sure.
the option is to get food stamps or steal,
Hey,
then
quit.
people are going to choose food stamps, right?
I mean, I would hope they do. Here, get your butts out of here. You guys are eating weird stuff. Um. Oh shit. What was I gonna say? So okay, here's the thing. I think we overpunish non. How should I explain this? No,
Non-violent offenses.
I don't even want to say non-violent offenses. I want to say non-important criminals, right? So they're so gung ho on like
The war on
maybe
drugs.
drugs, or let's say you have a bar fight, some stupid shit, right? Just hey, fuck off, go home. Did you learn your lesson?
Well,
Whatever.
I don't know. A bar
Maybe
fight is like
okay.
it depends on how much it escalates, but a bar fight kind of um to me, a bar fight does have a certain level of public disturbance, violent tendencies, public intoxication. Like that's like like it doesn't need to be like in jail forever, but like
I'm not
that
saying it's like
that
top
marks a
tier
certain
type stuff.
level of
Maybe mid tier, but like break it up, have them go home. If obviously you have the person who incited it, maybe have them go home. Or, I've seen fights with friends who are just drunk doing stupid shit, right? Just
I think it depends. I'm just saying like I don't know. I've been drunk. I've never gotten into like I've just had people grab me and not me twist out of it and then being a little mad that I hurt them because they had the stomach to grab me when I was drunk. But well,
like
I'm sorry that I know how to like twist out of somebody grabbing me, but like don't fucking touch me when I'm drunk and I don't like
so
you.
so this is something that happened to a friend of mine. His wife went batshit crazy. He didn't touch her, but he got his ass beat. But he is a big dude, right?
Mhm.
He went in the police
Oh, so like
officer.
because he didn't call like he didn't fight back, so obviously.
No, he didn't, but he went into the police station and made a report. He's the one that got arrested
Oh.
because they didn't believe that because he's big. He's like 6'2", 6'3", and his wife's like 5'1", and
What
they
kind of
didn't.
culture do we have where we like don't believe that men can be abused?
I know. Anyway, it's the bullshit point. But I'm saying is we're focusing on like this stupid shit, right? Basically stuff that they should have made a police report, not fucking arrested him. I told him he should have sued the fucking police station because that's ridiculous. Uh, but he's like, no, whatever.
You still believe that we should fund the police.
Look, he went to the LAPD. Anyway, yes, I do.
Well, okay, here maybe the problem is that like our cities are overfunded and our local polices are not.
I'm okay with that. Like, okay, so I've had a lot of interaction with police during this whole thing. The police
Mhm.
that were the most helpful and the most willing to cooperate and just, hear me out, help me out, get stuff where it needs to do, help with the police report, just generally things that matter have been the local police, any sort of sheriff's department I've had. They've been pissed because all of them pretty much owns nice cars too. I'm not exclusive. Generally, there's a lot of car people in the police force. Um, so, it's absurd, and they want to get this done. The people who have not been helpful has been the LAPD because we usually have to call. Okay, here's a comparison for you. I'm on the phone 2 minutes for a non-emergency at the local station. Operator picks up. I talk to them. They figure out what's going on. Obviously, they're familiar with us by this point, and they went, "Okay, well, we'll either let you talk to a officer who can help us, or we'll let you talk to the detective if they're free." Right? Two,
Right.
3, 4 minutes. I talked to the sheriffs that was in the area out at Hollywood, West Hollywood, where we tracked it. There was a sheriff station like not even a mile away, so they were really close.
Mm.
We talked to them. It's the same thing. within 2 3 minutes they got a sheriff, and we were talking to him, and he said we'd be more than willing to help out. Go to the location. You know, if you see it, call us first. Don't call LAPD.
Interesting. So like they specifically tell you not to call the heavily funded big city police. And it's like the small local police that's underfunded that's more willing to be helpful.
Yeah, because for them, that's their neighborhood.
So it's more important to have local community neighborhood involvement.
Yeah, 100%.
Do they live in those neighborhoods too?
I don't know. Who knows? Probably not. Hollywood's a fucking expensive area. I highly doubt they live in Hollywood.
Do they all look like you?
No.
I'm just curious. Here's the thing is, I have to say, Seattle police, when I've interacted with them, they've all been extremely nice to me, right?
Yeah.
They've all been very, very nice to me. But here's the thing is, the Seattle police are statistically extremely racist. Like Seattle police are overwhelmingly more racist than almost any other police besides like New York police, as far as I'm aware. Like we are so terrible, but they're very nice to me. So my judgment of if the police are good or not is can't be based exclusively on how they treat me, a tiny, unassuming white woman who lives in Capitol Hill, a nice area.
So who is who
Like looks
is
nice.
who is making these complaints though? That's what I want to know. Is it, I don't know, maybe
It is
somebody who's
how
getting
many black people
arrested?
they killed statistically. They're like
Is
overwhelmingly kill black people. Like it's pretty bad.
oh,
Like
I'm
it's
not,
not
I don't have time to
it
get into this right now.
no, like we have a very small population of black people and they are very unfairly targeted here in Seattle. Seattle is very racist. I have like friends that are black that are have like very much commented that the people are nicer to them in the South. Um, like they think that the South is less racist than Seattle. So I'm like, this is it's not just but like statistically Seattle's bad and we had the most amount of and a lot of it is people coming from neighborhoods that are not theirs and policing them and all these other kinds of things. So but like it's not about how people treat you individually, it's like what the statistics say to
All right.
me. That's what and I'm talking about big city police and the impact they have. Right? It's not about just like, hey, the local police work well for me in my neighborhood and that's good. I'm glad that they work for you, right? I personally have not had problems with the police. I do not have to interact with the police. The police have been perfectly polite to me because of the impact in like the position of society I am in. That's called like recognizing the privileged place that I have.
So, just so you are aware, the police officers I talked to in our local station, first officer who took to my report, Mexican. He felt
Okay.
really bad about it because he recognized my car. He's like, "Yeah, I've
Oh,
seen you driving around." He's like, "I have a Dodge Charger too," and I was like, "He's like, it hits me close to home too because I have one."
so class solidarity there.
Yes, I guess. And then the next one, Mexican woman, and I think I've talked to her once or twice, just because she was on duty and I think in the office or something. But she's familiar with the case, and she was like, "Okay, yeah, no, I think we talked before because I had to drop off a USB."
Hmm.
There was another day where, actually, funny story. I went to go drop off the USB the day before, but there was some like event going on, and the police were just swamped, so I couldn't really talk to anybody. And I just said, "It's okay, I'll come back later. I see you guys are busy." And the police officer I was talking to is like, "I appreciate it. Thank you." And I was like, "No, no, no. I understand. I saw you drag in like two people getting arrested. I don't know what they did. Apparently, they didn't know what they did either because the girl was like, "What am I in here for? You can't arrest me." She was clearly just drunk out of her mind. I don't know if they were just throwing
You
her in a
know,
drunk tank or what, but
probably.
she
I
was
I
a white girl.
wonder. I wonder. Sometimes I honestly feel like more drunk white girls should be like, especially if they're like peeing on random things in public. I feel like they should be arrested more. Honestly, like that's like a public nuisance. They
Well,
are
okay.
too
So
fearless sometimes.
I'm pretty sure they pulled them literally from the event that was going on, right? Because it was like police station, like beer tents, food, music, and it was like, oh,
Oh wow,
they're gonna be busy tonight. So, um, but I really need to get going. It's kind of getting late.
it is very late.
So,
Um,
that was our extended chat podcast. Thank you for
this-
listening.
yes,
I did record
I
most of it, so.
I enjoyed this discussion. I feel like this we got like a lot more into the nuances of like our different ideologies for this, and we're able to come into like a little bit more of a consensus on like
Well, I
you know,
can. So, here, let me do